So my name is Tomo, once again, from Earth Company. I'm very excited to be here with all of you guys to be able to facilitate this session. And I'll quickly go on to our screen share, if you don't mind. Okay, great. So in this session, we want to cover a few things. I'll do a quick intro from my side, and then I'll quickly pass it on to the 4 amazing change makers we have online from 4 different geographies, amazing people. And then we'll split into small groups, 4 groups, to do a Q&A with them. So you can ask whatever question you have. So before that, we'll ask you to put your number before your name to indicate which group you want to be assigned to. And then we'll come back to this big group to share the discussions that were held in the small groups. And then in the last few minutes, I'll try to wrap up what we learned or the inspirations we got or whatever we're feeling at that time. So yeah, so that's the flow for the next hour and a half or so. Cool. So let me start with the intro. From the Earth Company side, so we have 4 people, including myself. So my wife, Aska, is actually sitting next to me with the virtual back. Oh yeah, okay, you guys can see. You'll see her again later. So she and I started Earth Company about 7 years ago. We are joined by Mami from Japan. If you want to turn on your video. Yeah, Mami, do you just want to say hi?
Hi guys, I'm Mami.
Great, thank you. And then we have So, also connecting from Okinawa, Japan.
Hello.
So do you want to say hi? Yeah, okay. Hi, So, thank you. Great. And Earth Company, quick intro of what we do. Earth Company is a company that creates futures, futures we can pass on to the next generations. And to do that, we really respect and derive inspiration from this proverb by the Native Americans. We probably have seen this in many places. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. I think this is a very important perspective to really rebuild our world, we think. And our mission is to empower change makers that can create futures we can pass on to next generations. And so, as I mentioned, the 2 of us started Earth Company back in 2014. And today we are blessed to have about 40 members in the entire team. On the right side, you see mainly Balinese team that is involved in the eco hotel that we run in Bali, which is just about 5 minutes from where we are. Aska and I are taking this call from home. And the rest on the left side, we have about 15 people spread across Japan, Taiwan, and Indonesia, working on the non-hotel stuff that we work on. So we are engaged in 4 different kinds of activities. The first one is our Impact Hero program, which is really, you'll hear more about that in this session. We also have other programs, Impact Academy, which is an educational program. We also do some consulting to companies and other organizations. And we run an eco hotel here in Ubud, Bali. In terms of kind of the scale, so we've raised about $1.7 million, and more than half of that has actually been donated to our Impact Heroes. Oh, okay. Along the way, we've been fortunate to have received awards and covered in media and things like that. And the Impact Hero program is really our flagship program, and we select these amazing one-of-a-kind change makers from around the Asia Pacific, and these are some of the criteria that we use to select them. And we select one impact hero per year, and we support them for a 3-year period. I think that kind of long-term engagement is a unique aspect of our approach. And the other thing that's kind of unique is that, as you can see in the countries below, they're all, kind of all over the region. And the causes that they're engaged in are also quite diverse. So we are quite agnostic about the sectors as well as geography. We're really looking for these, these life stories and life missions that can inspire, inspire us. Starting this year, we're also starting to support the cohort of Impact Hero finalists, and we just started that. Here are some of the finalists from previous years, 2019, 2018. And for our Impact Heroes, we basically try to do everything and anything we can in order to be helpful. Fundraising is a big part. We fundraise at least 100K per Impact Hero. We also provide marketing supports, leadership coaching, and basically anything we can do to help them. Yeah. And just before we invite the Impact Heroes to talk about their life stories and their work, just want to touch on the other things that we do. So in terms of our educational program, we've been running these programs based on focused on sustainability and social innovation in Bali, especially before COVID, and involving high schools, university groups, as well as young professionals. And we've delivered 45 programs to date to about 700 participants. And the place where we hold these educational programs is our eco hotel in Bali called Mana Earthy Paradise. And I can go on for hours talking about the different sustainability practices and features, but it's basically trying to be as conscious and as ecological as much as possible, and really try to embody the vision and values that we believe in. Okay. Without further ado, I want to switch to the next section of this session, which is our conversations with our Impact Heroes. And we'll have about 10 minutes each. We can at least, with these amazing individuals, we wish we had more time, but it's really kind of a short conversation to give you a flavor of what they do. So Bella is from Timor-Leste. She went through extreme hardships as a child, and especially because she grew up during violence and civil war, and she also spent some time in Canada during the fight for independence. And she's been back in the country, I think, for close to 20 years since Timor gained independence. She is planning to run for a country's 2023 presidential election, which is really exciting. If elected, she'll become the first LGBT president in Asia, and definitely the first female head of state of Timor as well. So I'll stop my screen share. Bella, do you want to come on? Okay, great. I'll see you now, Bella. All right, Bella, can you hear me and see me right? Great, okay.
Yes.
All right, Bella. I know you're in Dili now. You've been there for probably more than a year since COVID happened. How is Dili today?
Well, we still locked down. We don't allow to go anywhere. So stuck at home mostly. And a person like me stuck at home sounds like I'm in prison. But anyway, I found myself to do things around. So I also working with so many people online to create a Timor-Leste garden. I encourage everybody to plant around their home, and making your land green, basically the whole idea. Since the government has no funding to support the community or the people of the country, so we want to encourage the idea that people should feed themselves by making sure that their land is green. So everybody already growing in the country right now. Start from flowers to food that we found on the table. So that's what I have been doing so far.
Great. That's awesome. We can, maybe we can talk more about that later. But maybe we can backtrack and you can share a little bit about your childhood and what you went through, in Timor as you were growing up. Like, what are some of the key experiences that have become your motivation or your drive to do what you do today?
Well, as you know, I come from a very simple family, grew up with a single mother, and I see injustice since I was very, very young. And I think I was very sensitive towards injustice since I was very young. And I always fight in my way back when I was very young in making sure that my voice is heard. Whatever I entitled to, I should have. If I don't, then I work hard for it. That's how my mom always educated us. And she's no longer around, but all the values that she has teach us since we're very, very young is still around. And I uphold that you can't just sit quiet when you see injustice and don't wait until it just happened to you. But, it's happened to anyone around you that you see or you heard, you have to act on it. And that's the lesson I learned, and that's the things that I've been doing. And of course, being somebody who always seeing things injustice and speak about it or act on it is not always easy. Sometimes I risk myself, I risk my life, but what is the point of fear is no longer something that I believe. Fear is a disease that I fight for a very long time, and I'm out of it. And if I have to do good things, if I have to die to do good things and the right things, so be it. That has been my way of living.
Yeah.
And this is why in the country people know me for being very upfront and speak right to the face of whoever needed to hear and do things that need to be done in order to make a difference.
Yeah. Maybe we can touch on the topic of fear and kind of risk, because you mentioned it. And you said I know you've been threatened many times in your life for what you do in terms of human rights, protection, LGBT issues, as well as environmental issues. How have you overcome that, or at least engaged with that idea of fear?
Well, my fear was completely out of me, I think, in 2014, when my oldest brother, was trying to stop and kill me, attempted to kill me. And I didn't know that he was actually the one that actually made me scared all this time after my father, because my father left me when I was only 6. And in 2014, when I faced my brother, then I realized that I was over it. I'm completely done. During the Indonesia time, I was scared so hard, though, and the military of Indonesia was occupying my country and all that. But apparently, I still have one left person, who was my oldest brother. So anyway, things are getting better now. I get along with him. After 7 years, we, basically disown each other. I put him to face the law and justice because of what he did. And things much better now. And I have more space. I can move around to speak to people and make a difference. And I encourage every families and people around me. Basically, what I have done inspires so many people that when you talked about the family violence or things dirt in the house, you don't mean to put them in prisons, or you meant at looking at difference, making it changing. You want your family to be like, if you have a father, you want to have an amazing father. You have brother, then you like to have an amazing brother around you. And then later on, when you have a husband or you have a wife, you are a good person simply. That's what we all wanted to, to have in our life. You don't want violent people around you. Right? You don't need that.
Yeah.
It didn't take you anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe do you want to explain a little bit about the LGBT situation in Timor? I think for people outside of Timor, it's hard to understand how conservative the country is and how traditional people's minds are. So maybe you can explain a little bit the context and what you're trying to change.
Well, as you know, Timor-Leste is very patriarchal society, and then more so as a Catholic fanatic country. And people are still thinking in a very traditional way. So being women is already so hard in Timor-Leste. You just basically either second or third citizens in the country. And worse, when you are a citizens, you're members of LGBT or a person with deficiency, it's all have a very situation where sometimes you can't really explain it. Because beside very patriarchal society, violence is a very normal here. Beating wife or beating girls or control women in your house is a very normal thing. People still believe that, and they think it's too educated or to making sure that women have good manners. So my struggle, being the voice of community of LGBT, is a huge risk. I lost the opportunity to be able to work in the government's levels or in any levels when it comes to the government, because I have been seen as a absolutely not normal person. I will bring down the government's image or the country's image. That's why in 2017, I was supposed to be a potential member of the government, but they basically isolated me because of my sexual orientation. So being the voice of this community in the country, yeah, again, I am ready to face whatever risk is there. People calling me names, calling me, either right in my face or using fake IDs to threatening me and all that. But as you know, I'm still speaking, I'm still here. So it means that whatever it is they do is not working. Sometimes I even put out my address, my name, where I live. I say, just come and finish me up. And, because my idea is that if you finish me for speaking about LGBT, you finish me for being who I am, really, like, come, do it. Because you can't change me, because this is who I am. And I want making sure that community of LGBT in the country at least have somebody to voice their voice. And I am here for them.
Right. Amazing. One of the focus themes of this conference is new leadership, and we know you're running for presidency. You are a leader of many communities in Timor. Just wondering what your thoughts are on the kind of leadership that's required for the new paradigm, right? For the future, what kind of leadership is required, do you think?
Well, I think, a good leader is a leader that inspires people to make a difference. Leaders who inspire people to look at themselves that they can do things, they can make a difference. Leaders who have a vision, who can see issues through, people's life, not only through his or her life. Who see far, and then who's taking responsibilities, who in the front lines, who ready to be blamed and all that. We today the world, we see that, leaders, especially here in East Timor, being a leader seems to be easy, as if like if you're sitting in a position of the government, they call you leader. I don't see that at all. Especially when my party is winning, and if I like you, I like them, and I get all of them on the position and then call them leader. This is not at all. Leader is, like I said, leader is somebody who not only talk, but somebody who actually in action, because when you talk, people might forget, but when you do things, people remember. Right. And this is the kind of leader we want. We don't want people, leaders who's just super smart, but heartless, who knows sensitive towards social issues around you, or leader who's just selective of issues that they want to talk and issues they don't want to talk. If you're leaders, you have to be all over, like in every corner. This is a good leader. That's what we need. The world need today. Right. Willing to take a risk, of course. Yeah. Not in a zone of like safe and I'm a leader. You're not leader. Right. Leader is earning. Leader is not a title, by the way.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, you need to earn that, and that's something that people,
They
people
give it to
decide.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they give
they
it to
call
you.
you that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks, Bella. That was 10 minutes. I can't believe it. That was, we could go on forever. But thank you so much. And
Thank you.
for those who want to continue talking to Bella, we'll have that opportunity in about half an hour. Okay. Thanks, Bella.
Okay.
And now we will
you.
invite Kathy to the stage. But let me just do a quick intro of her. If I can go to her slides. Yeah. Okay, so Kathy is from the Marshall Islands, which is an island nation in Micronesia in the Pacific Islands, and she's actually calling in from the capital Majuro, and she is a poet and also a climate change activist, and really has become the voice and face of the climate change cause, especially in the Pacific region. And so she's been speaking in different international arenas, and I think notably in 2014 she spoke in front of the UN Climate Summit in front of 100 something heads of states, and really tried to move the agenda. So without further ado, I want to invite Kathy to the stage, the virtual stage. Oh, there she is.
Hi,
Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's Majuro today?
Very good.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Sunny?
it's good.
Sunny day over there in Majuro?
Yes. Yeah, just another sunny Saturday.
Sunny Saturday. Okay. Thanks so much for your time. Just wondering if you can share about your kind of upbringing and childhood, and how that's shaped what you do today.
Yeah, sure. I was born here in Bello, Marshall Islands, and then my family and I moved to Hawaii when I was 6. I was raised in Hawaii, and that's where I was first introduced to Pacific literature. That, there are Pacific Islanders out there who write poetry and write stories, and stories has always been a part of my family. It's just families will always every family trades stories, but I think, and so I always loved stories. And I loved reading. And then I started doing slam poetry. I went off to college in Oakland, California, where I learned about Poetry for the People, which was all about how poetry can be a way to speak to the movement of our people, and can speak to our struggles, and learning about the ways in which Black poets wrote, the way Arab Americans poets wrote, and so it was really inspiring, and it made me think, what's the stories from our culture and from our people that needs to be told. So that's when I began to write poetry. Yeah.
Right. That's great. And we know you are quite a introverted person, and you use kind of poetry or arts as a way to express yourself. Can you share a little bit about that, and how poetry is a way of self-expression and giving you your voice?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've been listening a lot to this podcast called On Being, and
I
they
love it too.
interview a lot of poets. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I
just that.
really love On Being. Yeah. And I just really love the idea of poetry sort of speaking to something a little bit deeper. I journal a lot, but a lot of the time, it's just sort of stream of consciousness. But poetry forces us to kind of reach across consciousness, and like create all these connections that you might not normally make. And that's what's really fun about them. It's about doing poems. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just a way of meaning and understanding the world around me.
Yeah, right. But I guess you're also a climate envoy to your country, right? And so you also have a very external facing role, and then you also have the more the artistic and the more creative sides. How do you balance those different roles that you have?
Well, it's really interesting because yeah, right now we're running. I'm literally there's 3 jobs. So I'm running Jo-Jikum Youth Center, our nonprofit. So that's a lot of grassroots and mentorship and kind of really hands-on taking care of like something small, like gardening, like at the end of the day, you need to keep it alive. That's sort of what Jo-Jikum feels like.
Mm.
But then Climate Envoy is very much like not looking at the weeds and seeing the forest. It's a bit more like visioning and connecting all the dots and looking at the international landscape of climate diplomacy and seeing how those kinds of things intersect with our national policy. So that's like really like strategizing, and
Yeah.
it's really fascinating for me to be in that. And then poetry just becomes the inner life, the inner life and the inner workings that, you need to kind of wade through to be able to focus on these other realms.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's how I sort of see it, as kind of these 3 trifectas. Yeah.
Perfectus. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. The climate change movement has gone through phases and different different campaigns, and it has its ups and downs. And when Paris Agreement was signed, it was a very jubilant moment, and then there have been moments when Trump was elected, for example, when it was very depressing. How are you feeling about the climate crisis now, these days? Are you optimistic, pessimistic, realistic?
I think you have to have some sort of hope, at least when you're working in the climate realm. You have to believe that things can get better, because if you don't, then there's really no point in being in the climate work, because a lot of it is forward thinking, it's future thinking. And if you don't have that belief, then it can get really easy to be dragged down.
Mm.
I know that right now we're on a trajectory that passes 2 degrees Celsius. For that, that's basically, that means Marshall Islands is not going to do well if we don't turn back like now.
Mm.
But I think for the most part, I would say it's mostly positive. We're in a shift of thinking right now, where we're not necessarily focused on external, on the world, on getting the world as much to lower their emissions. I mean, we are, of course, it'll always be a core part of our messaging, but we're now also looking very internally. What can we do to protect ourselves, because those rising seas aren't going to stop themselves. They're going to keep coming up.
Mm.
So and that gives me a lot of hope, even though it's like 2-pronged. On the one hand, that shows the seriousness of the issue and how that's terrible that we have to do that at all.
Yeah.
And so acknowledging that. But then there's also the fact that we're being very proactive. We're not waiting for for it to be fixed for us. So I guess for now I would say, yeah, I'm still positive about it. I think the U.S. entering it is a huge, that's going to be big. We needed that. So yeah.
Great. Good to hear that you're in a positive space overall. Turning to the one of the themes of this conference. So there are actually 4 kind of skills or 4 characteristics that are really important to change making, and they're conscious empathy, collective teamwork, new leadership, and practicing change making. And we touched on the leadership thing with Bella earlier, and I wanted to ask you about practicing change making, because I know that at Jo-Jikum, one of the main priorities is really to empower youth, right? And how do you get Marshallese youth, the next generation, to really think about the complex future ahead of them, and how do you equip them with the skills and tools to really fight for the survival and for them to thrive? Can you tell us a little bit more about that work in youth empowerment, and how practicing change making is a really important part of your work?
Yeah. Well, I will say that activism right now, the way that, youth, we see the current kind of movement, the youth movement, climate movement around, that's international, that's being led by Greta, that's a very specific, like, looking form of activism. There's even the youth who went and sued the US, and that group is actually made up of, one of them is actually Marshallese, the group of youth that did that. Yeah. She was raised in the US. but that's to say that, that kind of activism doesn't necessarily fit for everybody, and it's not necessarily comfortable for a lot of Pacific Islanders, and a lot of Marshallese. And so the way Jo-Jikum kind of engages with young people is through workshops. So it's like, okay, there's these big issues happening. They're very complicated. It's hard to understand. And so far, it's inaccessible. It's not accessible for young people in a space where they feel safe to learn and to kind of challenge and bring up questions that they have of their own. So the workshop space sort of gives us that ability to connect, to create like a container, like a safe space for everybody. And then, to give them those tools, the education and the awareness, so that, okay, now what's out there and what's coming. What would you want to do with that information? And so that's kind of that's a really crucial key part of it, is that next step, of transformation. Okay, now you're going to be given this money to implement a project in your village. Now you're going to be given these tools and this artistic skill to be able to paint your feelings and to share your knowledge with the world. Those are the things.
Yeah, amazing. Maybe in the last minute or so, do you just want to share some of the kind of the big things that you're working on right now in any of the three roles that you are that you play, and maybe ways for people, the participants here, to get involved?
Yeah, within our national government, at the national government level, we are working on a national adaptation plan. And so this plan is basically like a roadmap to how we will adapt our islands. So, do we build a bunch of seawalls? How do we change our structures? Those kinds of things. Do we need to move and build a new island? Like, that's the most extreme, of course. So that's our big kind of focus right now at the national level. At the Jo-Jikum kind of grassroots level, we have a digital storytelling workshop coming up in 2 weeks. And then we have our second installation of the Climate and Health Arts Camp, where we teach the intersections of climate and health. It's a really good space for us to discuss like COVID and how COVID is linked to the climate crisis.
Yeah.
And then I'm, working on my PhD right now. So I'm working on a new collection of poetry. So.
Wow, what are you not working on? So many things. Okay, cool. Thanks so much, Kathy. Again, we would love to continue this conversation, but yeah, we'll have the small group later, so maybe we can continue there. So thanks, Kathy.
Okay, thanks, Tomo.
All right, so next we have Wei Wei New joining us from the US. And like many of our impact heroes, she wears many hats. So she is ethnically Rohingya, and so she is a representative of that cause. But she's also also a representative of the ethnic minorities in the country, and that's a really important aspect of her work. And another important role that she plays, especially since the coup in February, is really the democratic movement and protection of human rights in the country. And I'm sure there are many more roles that she plays. She's a very busy person now, especially since the coup, trying to advocate for change. As if she wasn't busy enough before, things are, I think things have gone to another whole nother level in the last few months. So we're really lucky to have Wei Wei with us today. Are you there? Okay, cool. Hi, Wei Wei. How are you?
Hello. Hi, Tomo.
Cool. Do you want to tell us where you are today? Where are you calling in from?
Oh, I'm currently in Washington, D.C., the United States.
Yeah. How long have you been in the US in this stretch?
It's been almost 3 years, over 2 years now. I came here to study my master's in law, and then I've been continuously staying as a visiting scholar, or with the different programs. Mainly was because I wasn't very safe to return home. Even before the coup, I've been quite active in terms of working on the issue of human rights and accountability. So, that was part of the reason that I'm here, so that I can be able to do more openly and effectively. At the same time, I wasn't safe, and now it's going to be even worse.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. I really hope one day you can safely return to your home country. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about your childhood and your upbringing in Arakan, and also in your your teenage years in Yangon, and how those experiences are driving you to do what you do today.
Sure. So I was born under authoritarian military regime in Rakhine State. I was born in Rakhine State to a Rohingya family, and growing up in Rakhine State, I have seen repressions, oppressions against my communities and everyone else. Politicians, including my father, who was detained when I was like 4 years old, 5 years old. And that's how I grew up in Rakhine State. But then the situations in Rakhine State where majority Rohingya live, it was not that as bad as today. Actually, it was in early 1990s. And then we moved to Yangon, and I grew up in Yangon, which is the capital city of Myanmar. And again, my father was deeply involved in Burmese democracy movement. He was part of the opposition alliance group led by Aung San Suu Kyi. And due to his involvement in Burmese democracy movement, he was targeted and he was arrested. And after a couple of months later, they came to arrest the entire family, including me. So it was in 2005. I was the whole family was arrested. My father was sentenced to 47 years, and I was sentenced to, I and the rest of the family members were sentenced to 17 years when I was 18 years old. But then my experiences in the prison basically awakened my knowledge and understanding as a young person, as a teenager or as a kid. And to another level, and I describe my experience in the prison as a life university, where I came to understand and the complexity behind the political systems and understand the corrupt political system, and the suffering of the people in Myanmar due to this authoritarianism in many levels. So I talked to many young people, especially young women. I was in women's prison, so young women and many young women, politicians, and many other prisoners, everyone. So it was like really eye-opening, and since then I dedicated to myself to make change. To when I were released from the jail, I would basically commit myself to change the political system so that we can have a freer life, and we can we will be I guess free from persecutions and repressions and suffering of the people.
Wow. Yeah, so I'm sure everyone is very curious about the situation in Myanmar right now, and I guess it's been 3 months, more than 3 months since February, March, April, May. Yeah, okay, sorry, more than 4 months since the coup. Yeah, maybe you can tell us from your perspective, where are we at now in terms of the military control and any signs of positive change?
Yeah, so since the coup began on the 1st February, the response from the public was really incredible, and I believe the military was not expecting that, and it's been really powerful and incredible in a way that it's become not just the anger, just a response against the military out of anger, but also it's kind of turned to a more larger political revolutions, ideological change to political system change, and it's involved like all, I mean, it's been started from the younger generations, Generation Z, but then it's involved all the generations and all the sectors and everyone. And one of the most powerful movement has been like, you know, the active and the participations of the civil servants at the along with this civil disobedience movement, basically.
Right.
Thousands of civil servants refusing to go to,
Yeah.
to the offices. That movement, the power and the
That's brave. Yeah.
yeah, the participations of the public and the responses from the people have been really incredible in a way that military cannot even functions anymore. The banking sector economy has been stalled, and military has not been able to control the country yet, especially at the regional level, at the local level. They have no control. So yeah, we are here. The movement is still ongoing, continuing, and there is no sign that anyone will give up on this.
Right. And do you see? Are you hopeful, or how are you feeling about the situation now?
You know, like Kathy said, you know, in this kind of crises, in the crises that affect our life and our future, we just have to be hopeful. And I am hopeful. I'm hopeful for, without hope, we cannot make any change. The hope is the most important thing. And you need to dream, and you need to have a hope. So if you dream it, if you hope it, and if you work on it, and there will be a change. Otherwise, you know, how can we make the change, right? So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, that's great. That's so inspiring and energizing, especially coming from someone like you who understands, you know, the all the negative, all the depressing sides of this, right? And still you can kind of hold on to that hope. I think that is inspiration in itself.
Yeah, not easy. Not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and like you said, you know, people like us face even more challenges than others. You know, being who we are, basically. I mean, there are challenges, personal level to organizational level, institutional level to the societal level, that we have to deal with every day. And you know, we need to be able to balance, and we need to be able to find, I guess, light in it, and you know, keep moving on.
Yeah, that's incredible. I want to ask you about one of the themes of the conference, which is conscious empathy. And I know, you know, empathy and compassion and all these things are very much, you know, at the core of what you do in terms of justice, in terms of human rights protection, in terms of creating dialogue among different groups. Yeah, maybe can you tell us how you kind of infuse or, you know, bring empathy and compassion into the work at the Yangon Youth Leadership Center, or any other work that you do?
It's a good question that I have never been asked before. So
Okay,
I'll
great.
try to answer my best. So I mean, I'm not sure it is the conscious empathy or not. One of my core principles is that I believe, you know, people are not bad. I mean, there are bad people, but they're inherently not bad. And there is always hope in people, and people can be changed. And all the repressions, injustices that happen in my society, in my community, I blame no individual. So my principle is that not blaming individuals, or not you know, not taking revenge against individuals, but changing the systems itself, changing the mentality of the society, changing the systems and institutions. These are my principles. So because I believe, you know, sometimes people make harms against each other out of ignorance, or there are many other reasons. These are the reasons that we need to change. If we go after individuals, if we go after groups just based on their behavior, and we're gonna be repeating the mistakes, and we're gonna become same like them. So my way of changing is changing the heart, changing the mindset, and changing the systems. So, and in this processes of all my engagement, for instance, just simple educational programs to peace building, like building allies and talking to community leaders, or even to the policymakers. I keep my principle in there, and I try to empathize people where this thinking coming from, where this kind of mentality coming from, and what can I help them to change. So this is one the approach that I have always keep in mind and been a core of my part of my strategy or my approach in my work.
Wow, great. Yeah, that's really deep. It's really about empathy and connection at the human level, no matter who they are, no matter what position they are, and trying to address the kind of the root causes, understanding the systemic the structural barriers. Yeah, great.
Especially in the environment or society like us, where ethnic where there's deep ethnic divisions, racism, discriminations. I think it is important that we try to be optimistic, we try to be open and talk to people like as if they are our friends or our family members, because we are the family, human family anyway, and we are family as a country, we are family as a society. So we need to talk to them in that way. And it's just internal practice that I believed. And in our programs, like for instance, if when we have like students come from, come from the prejudicial background, those who prejudice against each other, through our approach, through our mindset, through our communications, like this process of communication with empathy, they change. In many cases they change. I mean, I am not saying that everyone who joined have changed, but majority of them have changed their attitude against each other. So that's what I think it's how we can measure.
Great. Thank you, Wei Wei. Again, I wish we could talk to you more about this specific topic because it's so deep and important. And maybe we can continue that in a small group. So thank you, Wei Wei.
Sure.
Next, we will invite Arief, Rabik. Arief is our newest Impact Hero. And so he was selected Impact Hero at the end of last year, and we started supporting him at the beginning of this year. We were really inspired by the kind of the genius of the innovative approach of his solution. So he can tell you more about this, but it's really creating bamboo villages to address 4 or more than 4 big issues of climate change, land degradation, women's empowerment, and also rural development. We at Earth Company haven't really come across anything like this where a single solution, when it's like packaged solution to address so many different outcomes. So without further ado, Arief, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Tomo. Good, thank you.
Yeah, Arief, maybe you can tell us where you are today and how you're doing.
Sure. I'm in the capital of East Java in Surabaya, and been going around talking to wood companies about integrating bamboo into their futures.
Great. Awesome. Like the other Impact Heroes, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your childhood, and even about your mother, to talk about the drive behind your work.
Yes, I'm very much a mother's son. My late mother, Linda Garland, was the queen of bamboo and came to Indonesia in 1973, fell in love with bamboo from an aesthetic perspective, and then realized that it grew so quick, it helped restore the soil, bring back water to the landscapes, and was this amazing champion to restore degraded lands. And my mother worked for 35 years to really bring together the government and the design world and the business world to really find inspiring solutions of how to uplift bamboo as an alternative timber. And so I grew up in that household, navigating a lot of these interesting conversations. And yeah, I took over the baton from my mother about 10 years ago to lead the Environmental Bamboo Foundation, which my mother and amazing political act.
Uh-oh. Just as we were getting started and getting good. Let's see if he can rejoin.
Hi guys, I'm gonna keep my video off if you don't mind. Some coconut Wi-Fi issues.
Sure. Okay. Glad you're still there, at least in audio. You wanna continue, Arief? Or maybe not. Arief, you still there? Arief, are you still there? Oh, he's unmuted, but there's no sound. Yeah. Maybe we'll there's a really great YouTube on his work. So maybe I'll just share the link to that in the chat box. And here's just a 1 minute. Oh, this is 7 minutes. So maybe we can watch. Okay. Oh, there's a 1 minute version as well. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Hope you guys can access the 1 minute video that I just sent, and we'll kind of buy time for us to, for him to get back on. Okay. Oh,
currently
great.
the world emits up to 40 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere every year. Our vision is to take 1,000 bamboo villages here in Indonesia and expand that to 9 other countries that collectively will absorb and remove out of the atmosphere 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide every single year. Bamboo really does have something for everybody. The textile industry has a sustainable cotton alternative. The construction industry has a sustainable wood alternative. The energy industry has a new, rapidly renewable energy source. In the next 5 years, we can create 1,000 bamboo villages that empowers more than 1 million people to enter this restoration economy and restore 2 million hectares of degraded land.
Okay. Maybe I'll just explain a bit more about his work until he comes back on. So he and his team at the Environmental Bamboo Foundation are have started their work in Flores, Indonesia. So in Eastern Indonesia, in a regency called Ngada, Ngada, and they have really proven the concept of this bamboo village to and also to basically be a approach to rural development, also to get women involved, and also to restore the degraded land and also to fight climate change. And what they do is it's not just about growing bamboo, but they also basically build a village level factory to process bamboo, and so that the processed bamboo can be sold to middlemen and other buyers. And so it's not just about selling raw materials, but it's really processing the bamboo itself. And so as you can imagine, that takes serious efforts. And he often talks about a public-private people partnership, right? And so it's really about the community. It's getting private sector involved. It's also getting about getting the public sector involved. So yeah, I wish he could.
He said he needs 5 minutes.
Okay, maybe he says he needs a few more minutes to log in. So maybe maybe what we'll do is actually go to the breakout rooms. Maybe we can start. Which group should we start with? I think Kathy's group seems more ready than others. So I'll share so everyone can look at the slides. And so I'll invite you to, lead the sharing of group 2, Kathy's group.
Okay, I didn't expect that we will start first.
You're muted, so.
Oh yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. I didn't expect that we will start the first session, so the note taking is not really ready yet. But if you could see the slide 3, it's for quality of leadership, and the Kathy says really great sentence. She said, poetry can help cultivating the empathy. That's really, powerful story. And Kathy, could you elaborate these sentences, the idea of poetry, like the power of poetry?
Yeah, I was just saying, I was sort of struggling with that term, conscious empathy. It's a lot. So I was wondering how to answer it. I hadn't really given it a lot of thought, but I realized that after struggling was that poetry can help us cultivate conscious empathy. So it's a practice, poetry and art. And when we create for ourselves and we create for others, I think for me, I've been kind of on a journey of trying to create more for myself rather than just externally, because I was so used to doing it as a job and as work that I stopped doing it for myself, for kind of that inner world building that kind of needs to happen. And so I started doing that more recently in the past year, and it's really helped me process, some of the things that I struggle with, that everybody struggles with. And so I think that poetry and art, when used as a private practice, not just for external purposes, it can help us sort of navigate some of these issues that feel bigger than us. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Kathy. And we had a really small group discussion. So Celine, could you turn on your video? And you had a question to Kathy about the reducing the emissions and also the national development plan. Could you elaborate more about that?
Right. So I was curious about the situation in the Marshall Islands, and which I see is similar to Singapore, where maybe there will be more focus on adaptation. Then I asked whether there was any space for climate mitigation as well in these two small countries. And Kathy explained that, well, there's a lot of work done to convert to solar energy within the Marshall Islands itself. And I think Singapore could take a leaf out of that book as well. Yeah, so that was quite inspiring.
Yeah, one thing is that now Marshall Island emits only 0.001% of the emissions in a national way. Is that correct? Yeah, but it's very small emissions, but you're muted, Kathy.
I just have to count with my fingers because but it is 0.0001%. Yeah.
All right, we talked mainly.
Okay, thanks.
Give it back to Tomo. Yeah.
Thanks, group 2. Maybe we'll ask Weiwei's group. It was the biggest group, so I'm sure not everyone was able to ask your question. But Mami and Weiwei and others, do you want to share in a couple of minutes?
Yes. So how to share the slide? We have to screen share? No?
Oh, I'll share the link in the chat box.
Okay. So if you guys can see the third slide. So we took some learnings from previous Weiwei's talk with Tomo. So first things about conscious empathy. She was mentioning like people are not inherently bad, and rather than blaming individuals, we should look into the larger system and the institutions that influence people's mindset and value systems. So that's one of the things. And in group discussion Q&A sessions, one thinks about collective teamwork. This is based on the question from Liz. So Liz, could you please maybe share your understanding about this factor based on the Weiwei's answer?
Sure. So I asked a long-winded question of basically what skills do we need to instill in our youth to help them with their collective team working, and the number one thing was listening, and listening attentively and with an open mind to be able to actually hear what is being said to them. It's not just letting the words pass over you, but actually attentively listening and taking in what's being said. And then as a woman myself, I then asked, how do you what about girls with how do you balance that being bossy with getting your word, getting people to listen to you? And Weiwei said it's about teaching girls how to not be timid when they come from a society where girls are being asked to be quiet and not have a voice. Asked is the wrong word, told. And how to speak with confidence and how to get your message across. And so how to speak effectively. So number one was how to listen. And number two was how to speak with confidence and to get your message across.
Thank you, Liz. Weiwei, do you have anything to add?
No, that was perfect. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so another thing about practicing change making, I think this is kind of related to what Praveen asked. So Praveen, if you could explain a bit about this part.
Yep. So essentially, I basically asked, I'll keep it short because I know we're running out of time, but I basically asked, when you're fighting for any cause, you're fighting an uphill battle, right? There are more and more people who you want to resonate with your cause. So how does one go about changing the approach to ensure that more and more people resonate with your cause? And basically, Weiwei shared about how no matter what happens, your principles behind why you're fighting for the cause stays the same. And you have to continue to take a comprehensive and cohesive approach to make sure that people understand where you are coming from. So if they may not understand to one approach, you should change your approach and see where, and it goes back to the idea of active listening, right? So you listen to them first and you see where they may not understand your point, and you try to fill in that gap so that they can get a better idea of where you are coming from. And by doing this, you can get more and more people to resonate with your cause. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, I think
maybe that's enough for team 3. I'm
Okay.
sure there are more points. So let's turn to group 1, Bella's group, the most intimate group. Oscar?
Yeah.
I just shared the slides on in the chat box, so you guys can take a look at that.
Yeah, so in our group, Arief came back and he joined our conversation. So yeah, it became an interesting conversation in the end. So what we learned from Bella in terms of leadership, I think, is the conscious empathy. In terms of conscious empathy, you know, it really in her case, it really comes from her real experience, right? Like she grew up very poorly, and you know she was raised by a single mother, and you know she's also a member of LGBTI network, and you know she the motivation is authentic. You know, it comes from her real experience, and that's why she can speak on behalf of her own people. She can understand the sufferings of her own people, and that's why people respect her and they follow her. You know, they have high hopes for her. You know, they depend on her for their future, right? And in terms of new leadership, as Bella spoke pretty loudly about this, leadership is not a title. You know, that's not something you claim. You know, people call you a leader as a result of actions and what you've done for the people, right? And Bella is a fearless leader. That's something we can tell very easily from how she speaks and how she acts. But yeah, and her style of leadership is very much leading with examples, you know, and that has to do with the conscious empathy and practice and change making as well. You know, like she back in the day, until like I guess a few years back, and she was the only one who was speaking you know, upfront and you know in public about LGBTI and young people that are following her and are coming out in the public at the moment. So it's really leading with examples and really taking the risk and put yourself out there. You know, put your you know, be vulnerable. You know, but don't fear making changes. You know, so and for the next generations. And Anissa, do you want to share the question that you asked and maybe how Bella answered your question?
In like 30 seconds, ideally. Anissa, are you there? Maybe not. Oh.
Okay. Then maybe, so we talked about how the approach that is taken by Bella and Arief are kind of similar in that they both work at the top-down level and the bottom approach as well. You know, so they're working at the policy level, working with the government and the policymakers, as well as the people on the ground, right? So I'm just going to ask Arief, be very brief if that's possible, the importance of working at the both top-down and bottom-up approach.
Yeah, it's critical, right? So we understand the context of the true capacity and the needs, and how to articulate those needs in a current way from the bottom, and have the top listen and you know, try to link together the right conversation and put together the right partnerships, and I think you know, Bella was really speaking to how you know, the condition of LGBT leaders, and you know, there's 5 new leaders who have come out, and I think that this thing of you know, the leader and the change maker being able to articulate at both levels exactly what's going on, and inspiring people to make that next step. You know, I definitely was very much inspired by what Bella was saying, so just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Arief and Aska and Group 1. I know we're all already past the time, so maybe we'll just ask the Impact Heroes to just share your thoughts from this session. Maybe something that's left an impression on you. Maybe what the other Impact Heroes were saying. Just very briefly, 20-30 seconds about your how you're feeling right now. yeah, maybe we'll start with Bella.
Well, it's great to listen to everybody's work, even though some of us we're already aware of. But continue on sharing like this is so important, because this is how we inspire each other and continue and do great things. Because the world still needs our work and many others' work. Like we're talking about teamwork, is what we are doing today. We share what we are doing and continue on to do what we think right for us, right for the community, and right for the world. That's why we're here today.
Great. Thanks, Bella. Okay. Kathy, do you just want to share quickly your reflections if you're still there? Oh, yeah, you're still there.
I'm still here. I think it was kind of good to hear from.
I think your video is off.
Oh, okay. I think there's something going on with my camera. That's why. So I'll turn it on in just a second. But yeah, just saying that I'm glad that I was able to connect a bit more with everybody here, and really grateful to hear from the crew again, the Earth Champion, other Impact heroes, and hear about their work. It's really fascinating. And yeah, I especially really liked all these different kind of models of leadership, and conscious empathy was good for me to kind of think about a little bit more. Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Good. Right at the end.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kathy. Wait. Do you want to share your thoughts?
So it's been a nice discussions with all of you guys, and nice to meet you. I wasn't expecting what is to be happening here, so it was very. I guess it's for me. I don't get to talk like this usually, so I usually have to talk about country situations or human rights stuff.
A little bit more casual than your usual stuff, yeah.
It's about reflections myself, and it's about deep thinking. So I appreciated it, and we really need it as change maker or activists or leaders or whatever you name it. If we are serving others and making difference, we really need to reflect ourselves, and I guess sometimes have deep discussions and deep thinking helps.
Cool. Thank you, Wei Wei. And Arief?
Yes, thank you, Tomo. Yeah, I was incredibly moved by so much of what has been said today. So thank you for including me, especially about kind of prejudice and not judging, and that no one is inherently wrong in a lot of these systemic problems, and that it is the system that needs the right kind of change makers to come in and change it. And from the bamboo village and the land restoration story, this thing of going to village level institutions, farmers and cooperatives, and saying to them, when you restore your land, you will restore yourself, and this very powerful thing of understanding the value of ecosystems and the value of their land, and their harmony with it going forward. I think so much of this reflection that we've done today is really important for leaders and change makers at that level. So it's would love to do this at that level as well. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Arief. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone. I think we'll take a group photo at the very end. But I just want to say thank you, everyone, to Bella, Kathy, Wei Wei, Arief, as well as Aska, Mami, So, Andrea, Aman, and all the participants. I think, for us, Earth Company team, we spent a lot of time with our Impact Heroes. We've traveled with them. We've organized events. We've organized things. We've slept on the floor together with them. Our kids played together. All that. But we're never, it never ceases, stops inspiring us. It just continuous. Joy to be able to work with them and to learn from them. So yeah, thanks once again. I hope the participants were able to get something out of this and to inspire to do more going forward. So yeah, thank you.